Speaking of Donald Trump, I was stunned and amazed by his new White House spokeswoman today. She's actually the youngest ever in that job.
Democrats and the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt.
Oh, you better believe things are heating up in the world of daytime television, and this time it's not just the usual roundtable chatter. Nope. This is something far juicier. Buckle up, because the ladies of The View are in some serious hot water, and it's all thanks to a young, sharp, and unapologetic conservative who's shaking things up in the White House. That's right, Karoline Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in history, is making waves not just in politics, but across the media landscape. And let's just say the hosts of The View did not see this coming. Now, let us paint the scene for you. Karoline Leavitt, at just 27 years old, stepped into the White House briefing room for the first time as press secretary. And boy, did she make an impression. She didn't just read from a script. She delivered with confidence, poise, and yes, without relying on binders or notes like we've seen so many do before her. But instead of applauding her for being a trailblazer, the ladies of The View decided to go low. And by low, we mean really low.
I think she's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
During a segment on their show, Joy Behar couldn't help herself. She threw out a comment that has since gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Behar suggested that Leavitt only got her position because, in her words, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. Yep, she reduced this young woman's entire career and qualifications to her appearance. And it didn't stop there. Whoopi Goldberg chimed in with her own take, claiming that Leavitt wouldn't even have her position if it weren't for what she called wokeness. According to Whoopi, this so-called wokeness is the only reason women like Leavitt have a seat at the table at all. You can already imagine the uproar such comments sparked.
Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you.
Social media lit up like a Christmas tree. Critics slammed both Behar and Goldberg for their remarks, calling them out for their hypocrisy. We mean, isn't The View supposed to be about empowering women, supporting them regardless of their political affiliation? Apparently, that only applies if you align with their worldview. One user pointed out, if a Republican said anything remotely like that, they'd be crucified. Another wrote, disgusting. Anti-woman Joy Behar says Karoline Leavitt got her job because of her looks. Imagine if someone said that about a liberal press secretary. The outrage would never end. And let's talk about Karoline's qualifications for a second, because oh boy, does she have the receipts to back up her position. Before becoming press secretary, she served as the national press secretary for Trump's 2024 campaign. She was also the communications director for Representative Elise Stefanik, and even worked under former press secretary Kayleigh McEnany during the first Trump administration. On top of all that, she ran for Congress in her home state of New Hampshire and won her primary before narrowly losing in the general election. So to say she's unqualified is frankly laughable. But we guess doing your homework isn't a priority for The View these days.
Karoline Leavitt, she's just 27 years old. But boy, was she giving it to the Trump haters in her first White House briefing.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Karoline didn't just sit back and let these comments slide. Oh no, she clapped back hard, and her response left jaws on the floor. During her next press briefing, she didn't hold back, calling out the mainstream media and by extension shows like The View for their blatant bias and hypocrisy. We will hold the media accountable for their lies and smears, not just against President Trump, but against anyone who dares to stand up for what they believe in, she declared. The room was silent. You could practically hear the sound of microphones dropping. And if you thought that was the end of it, think again. Karoline's response didn't just stay confined to the walls of the press briefing room, it went viral. Social media exploded with support for her. One user wrote that Karoline Leavitt is a masterclass in handling the media. Another added that she's not just smart but fearless and that The View should be ashamed of themselves. The hashtag #CancelTheView even started trending, with many calling for the show to be pulled off the air entirely.
Isn't it rich that The View is saying she got the job based on looks when DEI is all about based on looks?
But let's circle back to The View for a moment, because the fallout didn't just end with social media criticism. Oh no, the backlash has reportedly sent ABC executives into full-blown panic mode. Rumors are swirling that producers are scrambling to figure out how to contain this disaster. Some insiders are even suggesting that Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg could be seen as liabilities at this point, and honestly, can you blame them? This isn't the first time the show has found itself in hot water for controversial comments, but this time, it feels different. The sheer scale of the backlash has left even their most loyal fans questioning the show's direction.
No, it's not. So first of all, and I have had my objections to the job that Karine Jean-Pierre did, but she worked in politics for 21 years, 5 presidential campaigns, and worked in 2 administrations.
And let's not forget that it's not just fans or critics making noise. There are whispers that advertisers are paying very close attention to how all of this plays out. Big-name sponsors have reportedly started pulling back, or at the very least, reevaluating their partnerships with the show. One insider claimed that a few major brands are concerned about being associated with what's being described as a toxic environment, especially given the growing trend of consumers holding companies accountable for their affiliations. They don't want the headache, the source added, and let's face it, when the money starts to walk, networks start to listen. Adding fuel to the fire, several former employees of The View have started speaking out anonymously, sharing their thoughts on the show's culture. Some have suggested that this isn't the first time the hosts have crossed the line, alleging a pattern of behavior that's gone unchecked for years. One former staffer reportedly said, "What you see on TV is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, there's a lot more that never makes it to the surface." While these claims remain unverified, they are certainly adding to the growing storm surrounding the show.
Karoline Leavitt is the press secretary at the White House, doing a great job. Such a great job that the ladies of The View feel the green monster coming upon them.
It's also worth mentioning the broader implications for daytime television as a whole. The View has been a staple for years, but its controversies are increasingly raising questions about whether these kinds of talk shows have a future in today's cultural landscape. With more viewers turning to independent content creators and podcasts for their news and opinions, shows like The View risk becoming relics of the past. If ABC doesn't adapt quickly, they might find themselves facing a much bigger crisis than just one bad PR moment. One fan wrote, "They need to cancel the show. They are so disgusting and immature. How they can make a career out of what they do and live with themselves is beyond me." Another chimed in with, sue them all, cancel that nasty show." You can feel the frustration and anger in these comments, and it's clear that The View may have finally pushed too far.
They really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
And while we're on the topic of lawsuits, let's talk about the legal bombshell that's reportedly in the works. According to some sources, Karoline Leavitt is considering taking legal action against The View for their comments. If true, this could be a game changer. ABC is already reeling from a previous defamation lawsuit that cost them tens of millions, and another high-profile case could be the final nail in the coffin for the show. Imagine the irony. A program that prides itself on being a platform for women's voices being taken down by a young woman they tried to dismiss. You couldn't write a better script. As for Karoline, she seems unfazed by all the drama. In fact, she's thriving. Her first week as press secretary has been nothing short of groundbreaking. She's introduced major reforms to the White House press room, including opening up seats for independent media and restoring access to hundreds of journalists whose credentials were revoked during the previous administration. These moves have been praised by many as a step toward greater transparency and accountability, though of course, not everyone is thrilled. Sunny Hostin, another host on The View, criticized the decision, claiming it would allow unqualified individuals to spread disinformation. But let's be real, when has The View ever been a beacon of journalistic integrity?
But even factoring in that she's a nice-looking lady, I love that the libs' attacks on conservatives right now are that we're hot and cool.
And here's the thing, this isn't just about Karoline Leavitt or The View, this is about a larger cultural shift. It's about challenging the status quo and breaking free from the old guard of media gatekeepers. Karoline's approach to the press is a direct challenge to the traditional institutions that have long controlled the narrative. And whether you love her or hate her, you can't deny that she's making an impact. So, what's next for The View? Will they issue an apology? Doubtful. Will ABC finally pull the plug on a show that's increasingly out of touch with its audience? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, Karoline Leavitt isn't going anywhere. If anything, this controversy has only solidified her status as a rising star in politics and media. And The View? Well, they might want to start reevaluating their strategy because this time, they've picked a fight they can't win. Now, let's hear what you think. Should The View be canceled for their comments, or do you think they'll somehow bounce back from this mess? And what about Karoline Leavitt? Love her or hate her? Do you think she's changing the game in the White House press room? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to stay tuned for more updates because something tells us this story is far from over. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, keep the conversation going.